Tutaj jest Polska, tutaj jest nasza ziemia, nasz kraj, nasze prawa i zasady. Tutaj królem jest Jezus Chrystus. Nie interesują nas żadne dyrektywy i kwoty imigrantów.
The Fountain of Truth, number 1. Hallo und grüezi. This is a new format. I will try to speak my mind freely without script. A few thoughts and issues I would like to address. During the last 2 weeks we had a couple of friends and acquaintances over for dinner. Individual evenings with mostly a couple from Switzerland or Europe, and during the course of the dinner, certainly after 1 or 2 glasses of wine, the topic was straight off the casual, superficial topics towards politics. And what happened then was very surprising. All of them, we're talking about 5 couples, all of them without exception expressed very strong views and very strong opinions politically. But these opinions were mainly a repetition or reconfirmation of what the mainstream media in its headlines on a daily basis offers the wider public to read or to watch. So the main issue was half of them hated Trump, hated right-wing populism, and the other half was undecided, but would not be receptive for, let's call it, reasonable discussions based on logic and argument. The prejudice towards the right side of the argument and towards political figures like Trump, or even in Austria now, Kurz, or the AfD in Germany, or Le Pen in France, or even the issue of South Africa with the Boers suffering tremendously with their white farming tragedy. All of these topics, all of these issues, the people had a preset mind, a preset opinion about the world and what's going on. And again, logic and reason and having a proper discussion or argument was only possible after 2-3 more glasses of wine, where some people got very aggressive and others then opened up and basically confirmed or saw other points and were able to take them on board. But it was an extremely difficult experience and an extremely difficult task to let them step back from their opinion and look at the wider picture and show them that they have been fed with all these prejudices over a very long period of time. So these evenings concluded with either neutral feelings or feelings of discontent, mutual discontent, because most of them hold center-left or left-wing opinions. And this is very surprising to me, because many of the people I met before claim to have center-right or even right-wing opinions, but the wider public, I have to say, based on this small study, is firmly rooted in left-wing and almost Marxist thinking. Now this is very unsettling, because that means the trajectory of Swiss politics and the Swiss future is very, very much preset. And whatever happens and whatever people try to do, the people will not accept a change or a change of mind, a change of opinion. And we had the referendum regarding funding of the state-owned news and TV and radio stations, which was led by or initiated by a traditional Swiss right-wing party to stop funding this huge conglomerate, which is the main provider of news for the Swiss people. Because many people fear, and rightly so, that this news outlet is heavily biased towards a liberal agenda, parroting and repeating Merkel's ideas, or Germans' ideas, or Brussels' ideas, indoctrinating the Swiss people. And yeah, the referendum was not accepted. They downvoted it. So they continue to receiving state funding for their activities, and from that aspect it's not surprising that people are brainwashed and are heavily opinionated and parroting mainstream media. Now, if you think back, when did this start? I mean, there was a time when the mainstream media was most probably a reliable source of information. I remember in the 80s or 90s when happily you could open a newspaper, a good newspaper, Neue Zürich Zeitung, NZZ, or any kind of mainstream media in Switzerland, and you got quite a variety of opinions and a wide range of clear and factual reporting. Now this is all gone. Nowadays you only get opinions. You don't get any factual reporting without opinions. Opinions are the most important thing for newspapers. It's almost like clickbait. What that means is that opinions are everywhere. So people have not the space to come up with their own conclusions from what they read or what they digested or what they ingested. So to make it easier and to save some time, they just copy and paste the opinions of others into their own feelings. And it's all about feelings, isn't it? It's not about the truth, factual, and based on logic or proper research. No, it's all about feelings. How you feel about something, how you feel about someone. Therefore, Trump seems to be the figure from center-right till ultra-left, which triggers people in a very bad way. All the hate for their failings in life almost, or their insecurities or whatever, they get projected towards Trump. And it's almost laughable. Because if you start talking to the people and ask them why, they can't really say it. It's just a feeling they have. And I think this is just not good enough. If we have a society which decides the future based on feelings, that's pretty alarming, isn't it? It's pretty alarming to have a whole society which doesn't really honestly reflect on the situation, or on issues. They have a feeling what they do is right, and these feelings, they get reinforced all the time in the press, in the mainstream media. And this is alarming, to say the least. It's very alarming. And if you see the demographics in Switzerland, having 37% of citizens in Switzerland 15 years and older, 37% who have migration background, and we have 25% foreigners in our country, our doors are still wide open. It is extremely frightening what's happening, and people do not want to talk about it. What I heard on and on again is, I'm well off, I worked all my life, I want to enjoy now my retirement or my later years of life, I'm not interested in politics. And fake news, I heard many times. YouTube is fake news. Mainstream media? No. Mainstream media is not fake news. This is very much quality reporting. That's what I heard. That's what people said. And it is disturbing, yes. It is disturbing that so many people still didn't wake up. If I see Switzerland, it depresses me tremendously. It depresses me. It saddens me. It saddens me. If I look around in Europe, in Austria, in Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovenia, even in Italy, or especially in Germany, people start waking up. They start waking up everywhere. They're waking up, they see what's happening around them, and they think, hold on a second, am I on the right side here? Am I doing the right thing? Am I taking responsibility for this country? For the forebears who made it possible that I have this country, that I'm part of it? And people waking up. They're thinking about the future of their children. And this is happening all over Europe, but it seems to me not happening, or not happening enough in Switzerland. People in Switzerland are so confident, they're feeling content with their lives still. But if you walk through cities and towns in Switzerland, you see people and you think, what are all these people doing here? They don't fit. They are completely different. It's ridiculous. And it has nothing to do with being xenophobic or anything like that. But why do we need to change a whole society for the sake of it? This is impossible. The people who are in charge with these decisions have never asked. They never asked anyone, especially not the voters, if this is something they really want. They just tell them on and on and on that this is the new world, the new times, the modern times, the times we all should embrace. And if you talk to them and say, what benefit do we have from all this immigration? They say that the standard answer is, yeah, we have an aging population. This is nonsense. It's not going to help, because these are not qualified people coming. So what are they? They are net users of our social security system of benefits. They are not contributors. This is a lie. This is a lie of our politicians. So if that is a lie, what is next? Yeah, we need to have workforce. We have so many unemployed people in Europe, especially in the south, in Portugal, in Italy. And again, I know it has been voiced and said already, but we could take all these people before we take people from other cultures, from other continents, which absolutely don't fit in our way of life. Then they cannot assimilate, they cannot fit in. It's just not happening. And everybody knows that, but nobody wants to acknowledge it. That's the problem. So what I thought, why is this that the people are so ignorant? I think it is I came to the conclusion, it must be, because that's my observation. In the late 80s, beginning 90s, the people were still okay. But then something happened. The media changed. The media was not unbiased. The media became opinionated, and they start feeding the people with their narrative, with globalization, with a one world globalist agenda. And in every newspaper, this was the new thing, the future. This was the future, a globalized world. Davos, where all the leaders meet and discuss the future. In an elite club of people deciding about hundreds of millions of people, a few people, and setting the agenda for the future. This is what happened. And that has trickled down to the media, it has trickled down through the national broadcasters like BBC or in Switzerland, the state TV. And they bombarding and indoctrinating and brainwashing the people into that. So they've done that now for 20 or 30 years almost. And the reason why the newspapers, even if they wanted to, I think, even if they wanted to report unbiased, clearly about facts, they can't do it anymore because the people need to be fed with those biased prejudice and agenda. The globalist agenda needs to be continuously fed to reinforce people's beliefs. And I think really that's what's happening. In Switzerland we have one newspaper which I'm sometimes critical of, Weltwoche, Roger Köppel. I hold him in high respect. I don't agree with everything he writes, but I really hold him in respect. He's the only one standing up for, call it freedom of speech or call it different opinion. But in the same way, some people hate Trump, some people hate that guy too. It's unbelievable, just because he is not on the mainstream narrative. He is always questioning the mainstream narrative in a very good way, in a very intellectual way. And that is amazing to watch again, how easy people get in their insecurity, have to project. They have to project onto someone or onto something. And this brings me to the next topic. I mean, what's going on now with Russia for I don't know how long, this is unbelievable. I mean, there's an orchestrated, concerted effort in Europe or in the Western world to paint Russia as an evil bogeyman, especially Putin, as a criminal, as a not trustworthy criminal who is doing evil things and lying to his own people and tinting the name of Russia, and then it all gets blurred. The Russians are evil, Putin is evil. Then they mix it up with the Soviet Union. They don't realize that things have changed and that Putin has done a lot of good things for its own people. And people in Russia, not everybody, but I don't know the percentage, but a very high percentage, they stand behind Putin. They love him. They love him. He's like a father to them. I've made a video on Christmas about the Coptic church. Putin has built 25,000 new churches all over Russia in the last 10 years. There's a revival of the Orthodox Christian church and the Christian belief. There is a new awakening of young men living in honor and trying to be physically fit and do the right thing and have good families. And so traditional values re-emerged in a very touching way. And the evil Russians not embracing gay marriage or all this queer and LGBT and I don't know what kind of strange manifestations of our liberal societies. It seems that is enough, that hate gets produced or needs then to be projected. Because instead of thinking and cleaning their own doorstep, we in the West, we are very quick of pointing somewhere or finding a victim or creating one. So collectively we can then project our anger or insecurity or doubts, which most probably some people have. It's better to project those doubts and the fear on something far away or reasonably far away. And what better than the evil Putin, who is a dictator? People don't understand that we live in anything but a democracy. This is not a democracy. Democracy needs to be a system where people have a chance or have the opportunity to come up with their own opinion or their own conclusions and then vote accordingly. That's not how it works in the West. The West, the opinions are there already, and they just get transferred hierarchically from above to the people, and the people then finally, as sheeps, they go for it and vote for that. And this is a disaster. This is not democracy. In Russia, as much as I try not to be too euphoric and still skeptical, but I have to say, I mean, the opposition in Russia can exist. And certainly the opposition in Europe has a same or even worse, is in a worse position than in Russia. Because if you look at Germany, Merkel, who refuses to work together with AfD, because they shall be right-wing extremists, or in extreme cases call them all Nazis or whatever. And it's only 25% of the people and of the German people. So Merkel has the audacity to say that and to act accordingly. There's an unwritten rule, the new Minister for Culture should always be from the opposition party, and the person from AfD, which is the opposition party, was supposed to take over, and they refused. The Bundestag, the parliament, refused to give him this position because he's from the AfD, because he's a right-wing extremist or a Nazi or whatever. He's a super knowledgeable, intellectual guy. Nothing to do with right-wing extremism or anything like that, just because the people have been fed with that narrative, and that's what's happening. So, back to the democracy issue. I don't think we are living in a democracy anymore. I really don't think so. We voted in a referendum for a cap of migration, and our Bundesrat, they have managed to water it down, as I reported as well before, and it's a disaster how everything gets influenced and bent and altered by those people who just can't accept that there are people with other opinions. And if you listen to Viktor Orban's last speech, the big speech for the 170-year celebration of freedom fighting, is my last video. If you listen to that speech, you get really goosebumps. I mean, everything our leaders in the West, I'm talking now about the leaders in Switzerland or in the northern countries, everything these leaders are not, Viktor Orban seems to be. Or in other words, Viktor Orban must be the reason why many of these liberal embracers of globalization and the unified world leaders in Sweden and in even Holland, most probably, Sweden, Holland and France and all these countries, Ireland, he must be the cause for nightmares, because what he says is the truth, and the truth hurts, and the truth, people who are so off and so brainwashed, they cannot accept that truth. They cannot. So what they do, they project back, and that's what they do. They hate Orban, they hate Trump, they hate AfD, they don't like Kurz, they don't like the shift, or the right shift in Italy. They hate the Brexit movement. They hate Trump. And why do they hate all this? Because it's like a mirror. It's about psychology class, first lesson, first hour. What you do not acknowledge in your own mind and in your own heart, you will outside you will be confronted with, and then you project on that, and you, because you have not accepted it on yourself, obviously you hate it. And that's what's happening. This is actually very simple. It is very, very simple. So we went from our lovely dinner parties towards Russia. And then why I think that Swiss people cannot escape their prison of indoctrinated feelings, really. And here we are. So, one last thing. I made a comment in a critical newspaper and to the editorial, and I have been told from another reader that Swiss people don't like being told what is wrong. They have to come up with their own conclusion. How can they come up with their own conclusions if nobody tells them what's really going on? It's a catch-22, isn't it? In that aspect, the alternative media plays quite a vital role to fill the gaps, in my opinion. So we went from dinner parties over Russia and the media in this new format, the Fountain of Truth, number 1. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any suggestion or your opinion. And if you like that video or better audio, please consider to give a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening and stay well.